What is going on, everybody? ZyoniK here, and in today's video, we're gonna stick to the simplicity, the simple cores that you guys could use in the Great League that are also kind of cost effective as well. Whiscash and Skarmory is going to be one of those cores, typically a Mudboy and Skarmory. It has been tried and true since the very beginning of Go Battle League. Whiscash, I think, is the best of the lot. I know Shadow Swampert is pretty good too. The reason why I like Whiscash is because it got access to Scald. It has the bulk, it has the Mud Bomb coverage, but that Scald debuff can be very, very nice. And obviously, the core of Skarmory with that is great. And we also have a Gligar safe swap. And Gligar on this team does a few things. It does the roles of both Pokemon, which is why it's such a good safe swap. For Whiscash, it has that dig coverage, and for Skarmory, it has that fighter and grass coverage as well. So, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you think about this team. Let's go and get right into it. All right, getting into the first battle, we have Annihilape here on the lead, the brand new Pokemon. We're going to go ahead and swap out into Gligar, as they're going to go ahead and stay in. Now, the tough thing about Gligar against Annihilape for Annihilape users is we get to the Aerial Ace faster than you get to the Ice Punch, and that's because of how the energy gain works with counter and wing attack, and the also energy cost. So we're going to go ahead and shield that Ice Punch. They're deciding to stay in, but they decided to swap out, and I was ready for them to potentially swap, and they did, which is perfect, as they swap into the Toxapex here. And Toxapex is going to be core broken by the Gligar, and this is why this safe swap worked out really well for me. Obviously, there's going to be some core breakers. First off the bat, Dugong might do pretty well against this team, as nothing is really going to resist it. Even Skarmory takes neutral damage there. But ultimately, I haven't seen too many Dugongs this season. I've seen, a lot of Chargebugs, a lot of Lickitungs, Cresselias, Azumarils, Lanturns. Really haven't seen Dugong, and Bastiodons as well have been pretty common for what I have been seeing. But Chargebug coming in now allows us to take Switch here, as the Whiscash can do pretty well. Now, X-Scissor or Crunch still does a decent amount of damage, so you still have to respect that, but they will swap into Annihilape and look to go for the charge move. Now, I was like, Ice Punch, do I actually let it go? But I think the win con here is to double load up on energy. I'm going to go ahead and go for Mud Bomb, and then swap into, or utilize Skarmory to KO the Chargebug. Yes, you might be thinking, hold on, Chargebug's electric. Well, it's also part bug, so Skarmory is going to do quite a bit of neutral damage to that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and swap out into the Skarmory, because what this is going to do is it's going to force them to throw a discharge, and they won't be able to get to 2 discharges in time by the time I have a Brave Bird ready to go. As you guys will see, Discharge still does a lot of super effective damage, but it's not enough to KO. And the Brave Bird here is gonna be coming through. It's gonna do a lot of damage. Boom! Down goes the Chargebug, and that is gonna be a good game, very well played. Alright, moving to the next one. Altaria, another tough Pokemon for this team to deal with. Gligar actually has a somewhat decent mid-game matchup against it. The Wing Attack and Aerial Ace combination still does a good amount of damage, and obviously Skarmory does pretty well by resisting the Dragon Breath and Sky Attack, even the Moonblast or Dragon Pulse, depending on the charge moves that they are running. Now, they're not swapping out right away. This tells me maybe there's a Lantern in the back, maybe there's a Fighter in the back, maybe there's a Grass, and they decide to swap out, and they actually come in with Azumarill, so I'm kind of surprised they didn't come in sooner with Azumarill. But ultimately, Gligar, I'm not going to be able to get 2 charge moves off, or 2 digs. I was thinking I could get a dig and an Aerial Ace there, but I didn't get it in time. And now we have a tough decision ahead of us. Do we come in with the Whiscash, or do we come in with Skarmory? And I'm going to make a call that maybe there's a Lantern in the back. I'm fearful of Lantern. Let's just say that. I'm very fearful of Lantern. They do throw the Hydro Pump, so I thankfully shielded that. They built up enough energy. I'm like, you know what? This is the kind of Azumarill that would have Hydro Pump. So we're going to go ahead and throw the Sky Attack now. And they actually decide to shield. And now this is sending off alarm bells for me that actually Skarmory might be the best Pokemon to face off against their team, as they shield again. And I'm like, they fear Skarmory in some way, shape, or form. So I'm automatically thinking fighters, or grass in the back as we go ahead and stop the next Hydro Pump, and they swap in, and it's actually a Jellicent. And I was very confused, honestly, so confused at why they double shielded the Azumarill, because the Jellicent could have actually done pretty well, but maybe a slight mistake on my opponent's side. Clearly the decisions they made me instantly think it was a fighter or a grass. So now Shadow Ball does a good amount of damage here against Whiscash, but we should be able to get to that Mud Bomb in time. Now this is where the bulk of Skarmory is going to have to come through for us, and this is also a testament to Whiscash's Scald damage, as we're going to look to face off now against that Altaria once again. Now mind you, Altaria is a Dragon Flyer, so it's going to be resisting both Scald and Mud Bomb. Scald, however, is only single resisted, plus it has a chance to debuff, so we're going to look to go for that. It does cost a little bit more energy, but we get the attack drop, and this is huge because this now allows us to get to that next Scald. Had we not got the attack drop, I think we get farmed down right there, and then it's probably a good game. But this extra Scald, we're going to go ahead and swap out now into Skarmory. They swap into Azumarill as we farm down, and then we just need to go for the Sky Attack here, but they decide to surrender. So good game, very well played. Alright, moving into the next one, we have Shadow Gligar here on the lead. A decent Pokemon for us to be facing off against, and they swap into Lickitung. So what I'm going to do is overload on energy. I'm going to look to go for a Scald now against the Lickitung. Try to see if we get that attack debuff, but we don't. So now I'm going to go ahead and swap into Skarmory here on the Body Slam. Granted, they would throw Body Slam anyways in this matchup because it is Stab. And the Power Whip is going to be resisted by the Steel and Flying typing. So even though I caught it and, you know, the impressive catch, they were going to throw the same charge move. But Body Slams here don't do that much damage. What we need to ensure is that our Skarmory comes out of here with some energy for that Shadow Gligar. And we also don't want to have too much health because Gligar would have an opportunity to farm us down. And so we're going to go ahead and throw the Sky Attack now. We're pretty low here, where if they do come in with the Wing Attack fast move from Shadow Gligar, that we should be able to survive, but they instead come in with a Cresselia, I believe, pure Psychic typing in the top right, and I saw a Psycho Cut animation. It is going to be the Cresselia, and we're going to get farmed down. Now, Cresselia is a strong Pokemon. It's very bulky, but Gligar, thankfully, takes neutral damage from it. Grass Knot, Moonblast, and Future Sight are the moves that it will typically run. You might see an Aura Sphere every now and then. That is spicy, but the Shadow Gligar is going to go ahead and swap in and go for an Aerial Ace. So we're going to counter swap into our Whiscash and look to go for Scalds. We saved a good amount of energy here from before against that Lickitung matchup, so the Whiscash now with Scalds is going to be putting a lot of pressure, and I'm hoping for a debuff. An attack debuff would be huge for us, and which is why Scald is so powerful this season. It's honestly on the verge of being broken. Not as broken as Breaking Swipe, but the fact that it does this much damage for the cost of energy and the percentage chance we get a debuff right there, it turns a lot of games into RNG based. Do you get the debuff or not? So we're going to go ahead and no shield. It is going to be the Dig, unfortunately. Not enough to KO as we go ahead and go for the Scald here to do as much neutral damage to the Cresselia. And then we're going to be swapping out into our Gligar to fast move down with Wing Attack. We need double Aerial Ace to try to win this game against the Gligar in order to close this one out. They still have quite a bit of health, so this game isn't over yet. One Aerial Ace did quite a bit of damage. We're going to go for another here. This is going to get close, everyone. It doesn't get much closer than these fast move games. Aerial Ace, not enough to KO. They KO me. They literally have 1 health point. And you might be asking yourself, I'm just pausing right here because it's a good learning lesson. My opponent made the right play. And what you're going to see is they either throw the charge move and I get a Mud Shot through, and they got to hope that they survive that Mud Shot and then they get the second Aerial Ace, or they hope they survive the 1 Mud Shot and fast move me down with a Wing Attack. So they're going to make the right play, but you're going to see just how close this is. I survive. I take them out with 1 Mud Shot, and I survive with 1 HP. So good game to my opponent. They made the right call. It was a risky play, but they fought till the very end. That was probably one of the best battles of the day, if not a good battle I've had in a while, from my opponent just making the right play and going all the way for it. Good game. All right, moving to the next one. We got Whiscash versus Greninja. All right, before... We're pausing a lot today. Before we get into this one, let me just say, hats off to my opponent. I don't show names on here or ELO just to be respectful for who I'm facing off against or where I'm at. It ultimately doesn't matter. But this battler knows who they are. The spice that they run is incredible. So, buckle up. We got Greninja here on the lead. Already something I'm fearful of. A Greninja is already an extremely deadly Pokemon to be facing off against. And it's even worse when you don't have a good answer for it. It hasn't been common, hasn't been used in a long time, and my team can get swept by it. Now, they let the first Mud Bomb through, so I already have a sigh of relief on my end because that is a lot of health that I needed to get rid of. Here comes the second Mud Bomb. They're going to go ahead and shield, and now I'm in a position where I have to let the Gligar go. Thankfully, not the Gligar, sorry, Whiscash. Was I saying Gligar? Sorry. I'm going to come in with Gligar now and look to fast move down. I'm going to be forced to shield here, but ultimately, I will give up 2 shields to get rid of this Greninja as we go ahead and stop the Hydro Cannon. They swap in an Emolga. This is Pokemon number 2. So Pokemon number 1 is spicy, but we know it's been good. Emolga comes in, and mind you, Emolga is resisting everything. It is not over yet. So this Emolga here, my only answer is I'm thinking to throw Digs. Aerial Ace is going to be resisted, and we're just going to see how much damage it can do. Now, it has Acrobatics as well. I'm just like, oh, this is not good. This is not good. We're going to go ahead and go for the Dig. They decide to shield, and now we got to go for another one. Thankfully, we are heavily resisting those the fast move of Thunder Shock because of our ground typing. Dig actually does a good amount of damage there, so that is respectful for us, but unfortunately they have so much energy. I'm fearful of the double discharge, so I'm going to let this go. I'm going to come in with Skarmory, and I'm going to try to fast move down. Now I have to let this discharge go because there is still, it's going to do 50% of my health. There's still a Greninja to deal with, but they have Pokemon number 3 is an Alakazam. So a Greninja, an Emolga, and an Alakazam on my opponent's side. What an amazing spicy team that I was not prepared for. I tell you what, you can build as many teams as you want, but because of blind 3 format, you cannot account for everything, and this team obviously had my number. Now, we're going to get rid of this Alakazam, because just get out of here. Sky Attack, boom, see ya. I'm going to fight the good fight as well. We could win this game if we get the fast move down, but they get to another discharge in time. So that is going to be a good game. Very well played. I would have been swept by Greninja anyways. Boom. Down we go. Hats off to my opponent right there. All right, moving to the next one. We have Lantern here on the lead. Really good lead. They swap into Skarmory, so we're going to go ahead and go for a Scald, get ourselves an advantage. If you don't have a hard answer for a Pokemon swap in, you need to get an advantage in some way, and then we're coming into the mirror here. We get the attack drop as well. This is why I said Scald is so good. Pokemon like Whiscash, Pokemon like Poliwrath do incredibly well with it. Now, they're going to go ahead and go for Sky Attacks here, and it doesn't do that much. With the resistances we already have because of our Steel typing and also just the defensive stats that Skarmory has, in tandem with that attack D-drop, yeah, they're not going to go anywhere. We're going to go ahead and go for Sky Attack here. We're going to undercharge it as well because I want to have energy on the back end, plus I want them to get to another charge move. There was a Lantern there on the lead, and I don't want it to farm me down for a lot of energy. So they do decide to come in. We're going to go ahead and go for a swap. This was a mistake. I got so antsy about trying to team read or something like that. I was thinking maybe there is a Talonflame in the back, so I made a hasty decision when I didn't have to. I could have just stayed in with Skarmory and thrown the Brave Bird, been farmed down, come in with Whiscash, right? But instead, I make a a ballsy play here and come in with Gligar, and you're going to see why it's going to potentially bite back at me. As we have a good matchup still. Dig does a lot of damage, but they also have access to Surf. So we're going to go ahead and no-shield the first one. As you can see, it does about 50%, and now we're going to go ahead and go for Digs. And this is where things get very, very dangerous, because Digs do a good amount of damage. They're going to go ahead and shield, and now this is not good. This is not good, because if I need my Gligar to KO whatever they have in the back, maybe it's a grass, maybe it's a fighter, I could be in trouble. I'm in real trouble if it's a grass type Pokemon. So this is why I said I made a huge mistake. I should have just thrown the Brave Bird, taken the farm down, taken switch alignment. This is something you guys don't want to do unless you know the third Pokemon. You have seen the third Pokemon, and you know by making that switch it is an advantage to you. So we're going to go ahead and come into Whiscash, and there's a Trevenant in the back. And this is like, it's all over. I got Sky Attack, and then what you guys are going to see is I'm not going to be able to get to the next charge move in time. So I go down to Shadow Claw, and that is going to be a good game, as I'm going to go ahead and top left and surrender. Good game to my opponent, but I made a bad mistake right there. Alright, next battle. Azumarill here on the lead. Azumarill can do well against this whole team, but it by no means can beat this whole team. That's something I really want you guys to understand. A lot of the people who usually make the comments of this team's weak to X pretty much don't watch the first 30 seconds of the video, because most of the times the Pokemon that the team I run is most weak to, as yesterday's videos like Bastion was a tough one, I show in like the first battle if I face off against it. But anyways, you can't build a team to account for everything. And also, just because one Pokemon has good matchups doesn't mean, like Azumarill, doesn't mean it can beat your whole team. Now, things would be different if we ran something like Swampert, Whiscash, and Quagsire, and we ran into a Shadow Victory Bell. That is a bit different. It's obviously going to do extremely well with the fast move. But in this case, Azumarill is very clunky, not very spammy. It takes a while to get to its charge move, so we're sitting pretty good. We're going to go ahead and no shield here and let the Ice Beam KO, but they actually undercharged it there. And then we're going to come in with Skarmory now and load up on energy. They decide to swap into Medicham, so we already have a really good matchup right now. As we go ahead and go for the Sky Attack, this is just going to be Ice Punch, so we're going to go ahead and let it go. It's only neutral damage. And I'm kind of, obviously, we've seen Pokemon number 2, so now we got to start calculating Pokemon number 3. I'm kind of worried it might be a Flyer, maybe an Altaria, maybe a Skarmory. But a Skarmory, Azumarill core would be pretty bad. So I'm guessing maybe Altaria if it is that. So we're going to shield the Ice Punch, keep our Skarmory somewhat healthy, and then see what Pokemon number 3 is, unless they come in with Azumarill. We go for the Sky Attack right here, and I wasn't sure on their energy, so I just threw right away. And then we get to see what Pokemon number 3 is, and it's actually going to be a Lickitung. So this is going to be a close one. Buckle up. Lickitung versus Gligar in the endgame. Basically, almost the same energy. I think Lickitung is like 1 or 2 fast moves ahead in terms of licks. Maybe 1 turn ahead for those of you who understand the turns, as Lick is a half turn move. But Dig here, we go for it, and they shield. And I was hoping to get some free heavy damage right there. I'm going to be forced to shield. We have Switch Clock coming back up soon, so I need to see if I can stall this switch timer. I'm going to go ahead and go for another Dig, and then I'm going to look to go for an Aerial Ace if I can, and then try to catch the charge move on Skarmory. But we don't get it in time, unfortunately, so we will go down to this Body Slam, but now Skarmory is just going to come through, as we should be able to get to this Sky Attack in time with literally 1 health point, 1 HP in a dream. Skarmory came through like no other. Boom, see ya. Look at that health point. Absolute, literal 1 health point. That's how close these games get. So much fun. Good game to my opponent. Alright, moving into the next one. We have Skarmory on the lead. So Whiscash actually does pretty well, thanks to Scald here. Before, you had to land the Blizzard. It was a bit clunky, but with Scald, you can actually do quite a bit of neutral damage. You can apply pressure quickly. You can get those attack debuffs. It is actually a really nice combination, like we mentioned at the beginning of the video of why this core and why I choose Whiscash as my Mud Boy. So we're going to go ahead and shield the Brave Bird. They swap into a Swampert here. So now this is kind of tough. With a Swampert swap in, we're going to have to come in with our Skarmory. We get the attack drop as well. Scald, I'm telling you guys, I'd probably take Scald over Hydro Cannon any day because of the attack debuff. That's how good it is right now. Hydro Cannon doesn't do that much. We should be able to safely load up and go for a Brave Bird here. The reason why is I want to get that final shield or just straight up KO. I don't think the Sky Attack will do enough. And I don't want them to get to one more Hydro Cannon. We got lucky with the attack debuff, so we need to take advantage of it. Boom! Down it goes. And now we get to see potentially Pokemon number 3 if it is a Lantern. But it's actually going to be a Galarian Stunfisk, which works out perfectly for us because we have Gligar with Dig and we have Whiscash. Now our Whiscash is going to be needed still for their Skarmory, so we're going to let them farm us down. We're going to come in with Gligar, and this is basically going to seal the deal. They have to dump energy here. Rock Slide only does neutral, and it's not that much damage. We can survive like 3 to 4. I would say 3 plus fast moves, but ultimately they didn't get those fast moves from our Pokemon, so we're going to go ahead and swap out now into Whiscash because they're out of energy. They're going to have to swap into Skarmory anyways, and this puts me at an advantage against the Skarmory because I'm ahead on energy now. So we go for the Scald. They decide to no shield. I'm going to go ahead and obviously shield right here. This is going to be our best bet in order to win, as we should be able to farm down with Mudshot, but I'm getting kind of antsy. I don't think we make it, so I'll go ahead and throw, as Mud Bomb here should do enough to KO, and they're just going to go ahead and no shield, and then the Stunfisk comes back in. We can go for another Mud Bomb to KO, and they just let it go through. They know it's kind of game over. We still have Gligar in the back, so good game to my opponent, but ultimately Gligar kind of got them there with the Whiscash, or with the Galarian Stunfisk. All right, moving to the next one, we have a Whiscash Mirror. This is a really nice matchup for the person who gets the debuff. Let's be completely honest. This is Cresselia Moonblast 2.0. For those of you who lived through those GBL days back in 2021, whenever you had Cresselia versus Cresselia in the Ultra League, the person who got the debuff won. But unfortunately for me, they swap into a Superior to catch the charge move. Now, this is unfortunate because my energy is wasted, but it's fortunate because I get the attack debuff, and the Skarmory gets to come in, and I actually can't farm down here. Even though we got attack debuff and we're resisting charge moves, when they throw Frenzy Plant, which you guys will see, it's actually going to do quite a bit of damage for what we are and how much we've reduced their attack. So Frenzy Plant, yeah, does a decent amount right there. I don't think I get the full farm. Well, I would get the full farm down. Let's be completely honest. I get the full farm down, but I'm just going to throw here and then farm down now with Steel Wing. That way I'm healthy on the back end. Hopefully I can survive a Scald as well. That's going to be the goal. But ultimately these Frenzy Plants are really starting to add up, and they swap in a Skeletor. So I throw the Brave Bird at a really bad time here. It was horrible timing on my end because now I have to swap out, otherwise I just get straight farmed down. But Gligar is in a fantastic position. We're going to no-shield the first charge move, obviously. Our Whiscash can win this game, but we can go for the Dig now as they're kind of stuck here with the Incinerate. And they still got Superior, they still got Whiscash, but we have 2 shields. Boom, down it goes. And Gligar is in a really good position. Now, how I'm kind of mapping out this game is I'm going to no-shield this Scald, and then I'm going to come in with my own Whiscash and just take care of business. But they went for a Mud Bomb instead, trying to bait out my shield, which gives me a huge advantage because now they have to throw more energy, and this allows me to actually shield my own Gligar. as I can stop the Scald. So I was just going to win the game with my Whiscash, but now we're going to utilize our Gligar in order to win this game, because Aerial Ace is going to do a decent amount of neutral damage where we should be able to KO. Now they make a beautiful swap into Superior to flex on me that they can still catch charge moves, so hats off to my opponent for catching, but I'm going to flex right back with Skarmory and Brave Bird. You love to see it. So good game to my opponent. Unfortunately, I had good answers for their Pokemon. That's going to be a good game. Boom, down it goes. Good battle. All right, moving into the next one, we have Lantern here on the lead. Really good matchup, as they will decide to swap out into Frostlass. So we got to come in with Skarmory right away. Now, what's cool about the update to Steel Wing is obviously it increased the energy gain that Skarmory gets, but it allows us to farm Fairy and Ice-type Pokemon, which before we could, but we really couldn't, because Air Slash was only neutral, depending on their typings, of course. But we're going to go ahead and throw Sky Attack there. They decide to shield, so now we will give up a shield on this next one, and then we're going to go for that Brave Bird against the Lantern. We're not going to do any funny business like we did before, where I just swap out into Gligar out of nowhere when I can easily go for Brave Bird and just let it go. So I'm going to go ahead and go for the Brave Bird. Should have gone for it first, that way they don't get as much energy, but I thought maybe I get to 2 charge moves, but I don't get there in time. So bring in Whiscash here, just lock it down, and they swap in a fighter. So remember that game before where I swapped the Gligar in out of nowhere and then there was a Trevenant in the back and I had to surrender? This time I corrected my mistake, and this is why I said just take the switch advantage, don't get fancy, keep it simple. That's the moral of the story of this video with this team and with this play style. Keep it simple, right? So now in this matchup we can survive an Ice Punch. It is double super effective. It is Annihilate. He does look angry, but Ice Punch not going to be enough to KO, and we can get to a second Aerial Ace before they KO us with fast moves or get to another Ice Punch. So this is going to be a good game, as we can safely get to this Aerial Ace in time. And then there is the Lantern to deal with. We have a shield. We have Whiscash. Things are good. Boom, down it goes. And now, since we have played this matchup correctly, we get the W. And that's what's important, is sometimes we all overthink. Sometimes we do things that we shouldn't really be doing because we're trying to 4D chess our opponents, when in reality, let's just keep it simple. You know, let's just let's keep the alignment there. Let's trust in our ABB line formation. Let's pray that Dugong is not on their lineup. You know, these are things that we can do that are in our control in order to potentially win games. So good battle to my opponent. All right, moving into the final one. Yep, here we go. Shadow Quagsire on the lead. So, Mudboy v Mudboy, and this is why Scald is king. They will be able to get to Mud Bomb before we get to Scald, right? But Scald, oof, it is so good. We're going to go ahead and let the Mud Bomb go through. Doesn't do that much damage. And then we're going to throw, but they actually decide to swap into a Azumarill. So I'm going to go ahead and go for a Mud Bomb first. And then I'm going to see if I can catch the player. I think that was 1 bubble, maybe 2. There's 3, there's 4, there's 5. I swap, but it's actually it's going to be an Ice Beam. So I guess that's fine. I didn't want to get hit by an Ice Beam, but ultimately we lowered the health there on Azumarill enough where Skarmory can kind of take it from here, and Sky Attack can do a good amount of damage. We also have plenty of energy on our Whiscash, which is very important for later on. Now, Azumarill can obviously be a bit troublesome, but I think if we shield this next charge move, which I didn't, but I was thinking maybe it was a different Azumarill game that I've had quite a few. It's this charge move, yeah. Okay, so we're going to have to shield this charge move, obviously, to take Switch. We should be able to get to maybe 2 charge moves against the Quagsire, so we're going to go ahead and try to do that, which is why I'm opting to go for Sky Attack. I'm hoping it does, well, obviously it's going to get a shield probably because of Brave Bird, but I'm hoping I can survive long enough to get to the Sky Attack, but I don't. So now I'm going to come in with Whiscash right here and throw the Scald right away. And I'm going to do it. So I'm going to, hold on, I'm going to rewind this just slightly. So something that I have noticed, obviously, so when I talk about the game clock, That is the number at the top. You see how it says 10? Typically what people do is they either come in right away at like 10, or they let it go towards like 3, 2, 1, that area. So what I do to kind of throw them off, because they've already tried to catch a charge move on a Azumarill, my guess is they want to do it again. So I'm going to come in at a weird time. I'm going to come in at 7. I'm going to click, or maybe 6. I come in and then click. It's an awkward time. People don't really enter in at 6, 7 time frame, which allows me to get the Scald off, and then I swap into Gligar to try to catch the charge move. And this is me not listening to my own advice, and I'm trying to get fancy once again, but Stone Edge here is not enough to KO, and they bring in a Shadow Venusaur. So what did we learn once again? Don't get fancy. Granted, this is going to pay off for me, but look at what they had in the back. They had another Grass-type Pokemon, which I could have just completely sacrificed my only answer once again. Which is why this video is keep it simple, okay? Now, thankfully, they couldn't stay in with Quagsire because I would just farm them down, and thankfully, I have Wing Attack and Aerial Ace for this Shadow Venusaur. So, this is still a good game for me. I'm going to be able to take the W here. But it was a dicey one with that decision that I made, and the reason why I made it, I was going to try to catch a Mud Bomb. I was getting real fancy there, which I did not need to do. Aerial Ace, boom, takes it down, and now Quagsire is going to look to go for another Stone Edge here to take me out, and then I can easily go for Scald to close this game out. I could have gone for Mud Bomb too. Same difference. I thought I had the energy, but that's okay. We did a 1 extra Mud Shot, and that is going to be a good game, very well played. So, this team overall was a lot of fun. It's very simple. Oops. Sorry, we're getting back to the first battle. It's very simple, right? Whiscash and Skarmory, a tale as old as time. Gligar safe swap really melds it all together. You gotta watch out for dugongs, but ultimately this team did pretty well for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and like always, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.